Hi, my name is Angela Dorio. I'm from the College of Textiles, and I used to say I'm a third year PhD student, but I just defended my dissertation in textile technology management, specifically non-wovens, and so now I don't know what to say. So let's leave it at that. I'm recording this video because I would like to share a little bit of my experience on how I navigated my PhD program, having to deal with anxiety as well. So, as many people say, PhD is truly a roller coaster. Some months or weeks are great, some are super challenging, and I think I was very lucky. I had 3 years PhD, and I was working by myself on my project. But I say that I was very lucky because I was part of a large group of students, and we would meet every week, to present our results and catch up on life. And so I was very lucky because I was being surrounded by so many nice people. It was such a large group, like 14 people. And, it's always nice to have someone who understands what you're going through. And graduate school is definitely one of the times in life when you need the most support you can get. During most of my PhD, I've also received the support of the counseling center, which I appreciated very, very much. And so in my experience, I went through some good but stressful events like presenting at conferences, and I have had some moments in which I felt sort of lost, and I questioned myself and my choices, and why do I want my project to take this path, or why did I start PhD in the first place? And anxiety in all of this made me have I would say like a cautious approach, but it made some challenges even more hard. So for instance, when I had to present in person at my first conference, I could only think of how unprepared I was for the task, which eventually turned out to be not true. And, like I went through my presentation and it was fine, but, like I spent weeks thinking that I was definitely not ready, that I didn't have enough data, that I was not good at presenting. And even the night before the presentation, I couldn't sleep at all. And the day of the presentation, I couldn't talk to anyone really because I was just very, very nervous, and it was really hard. I had to sip on chamomile tea all day until my presentation started. So one other thing that I connected to my anxiety is that I couldn't keep the same pace while working on my project. So I had some weeks in which I was fully immersed in my classwork, and weeks in which I was procrastinating working on my project because it felt like a giant task that I could not address. And so I would be working on everything around it, but not specifically on that. And this led me to have some weeks of actual binge working, which was not great for my mental health. And, you know, like when you are inside the situation, it's really hard to be lucid and judge for yourself. So sometimes I would just be making up excuses in my head, you know, finding other important things to do instead of working on my project. And then I wouldn't, you know, talk to my advisor for some time, and I would feel incredibly guilty for that. And so I would send him an email to schedule an appointment. And of course, like the days before the appointment were binge working, because now that I had a deadline, I had to be ready for that. And during my whole PhD, I always had this feeling of not having enough data and not being ready enough. And for this reason, I was supposed to do the preliminary exam in my 4th semester, and I ended up doing it in like at the very last minute of my 5th. So my plan was to keep my PhD 3 years long, because 3 years was my funding. So I started in January 2018, and I was supposed to, I was planning to defend in December 2020. And I did my preliminary exam at the very end of June 2020 because I never felt ready enough. And so I kept pushing it. And my advisor was, he was like a great advisor. I truly appreciate his help. And he was not the micromanaging kind of advisor. So he let me, you know, steer my research in the direction I felt was best. And he let me work at my own pace, which I appreciated so very much. But if I could go back and change something in my in the way I lived through my PhD, I would have been, I wish I were more open about my challenges with him, and just you know, tell him in the times where I was procrastinating and I didn't feel ready to work on my project, just to reach out to him more and ask for help, and maybe, you know, ask for more deadlines, or, you know, whatever was the best thing to do at the time. But I never did that because I feared judgment, which, knowing my advisor, it really doesn't make too much sense, because he's a very kind and understanding person. But I still, you know, like, had this conversation going on in my head for a very long time, like whether I should reach out more or not. And one day I would wake up being like, today's the day, I'm sending him an email, and I'm scheduling an appointment, and I'm telling him like, I have these challenges now and I cannot work on my project. And the day literally never came, because in my mind I was just fighting the idea, and eventually never did. I mean, everything went smoothly, and I could keep up with my plan, and I did graduate in 3 weeks. In 3 years. Sorry, I did graduate in 3 years, but, you know, sometimes it is just the little things, really. And always being more objective and lucid after, like now that I'm done, it's easy to tell myself what I could have done better. But at the time, I was just not seeing it and not doing it. So one really important suggestion that I would like to give here is be kind to yourself if you are navigating through grad school and you have challenges like anxiety. And I know it sounds like a trivial thing to say, but in my experience, people with anxiety tend to be very, very harsh judges on themselves and never appreciate enough the good things that they do, because, personally, I keep stressing on the mistakes or the things that I didn't do as I wanted to, or something that didn't go as I wanted to go. And so sometimes we really need to stop for 1 second and tell ourselves how good we are at what we are doing. It doesn't matter if we don't get all A's in the classwork, or if we don't publish as many papers as we would love to, or if we fall a little bit behind because we cannot manage to work at the pace we set for ourselves, because we have real life problems beside being in grad school, and it's hard. It's really hard. And I think like we keep forgetting this, like we want to do our best in grad school or PhD, and we forget that we are not living in a bubble. We are not isolated from the world, just working on our project like nothing else can bother us and we have all the time in the world. It doesn't happen. Like especially in grad school, I feel like we are adults, we have families, we have commitments, we have adults kind of issues, that can be like anything really, but just we have a life. And some of my friends in grad school have kids, and that's also something more to think about. And so all this is to say that when navigating such a tough time like grad school, for instance, if you have additional challenges like anxiety or any mental health issue that makes things harder on you and on us all, actually, it's nice to stop for a second and remind us how far we have come just to be here. Sometimes I would stop for a second and think, 10 years ago, I would have never expected my life to be in the United States, and I would have never expected myself to be doing a PhD. Honestly, I never thought I would end up here doing what I do. But, here I am. And so, take some of these thoughts and really, pat yourself on the shoulder saying, you're doing great. Like, seriously, you are. And I hope this video is not too much blubbering. It's just hard to share feelings when describing experiences. And I really hope that this helps this helps anyone who is watching this video. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. I appreciate it. All right. Thank you. Bye.